let you know that this webinar is recorded, and we have a translation, traduction available, Arabic to English, English to Arabic. And thank you again for joining us today. Give the floor to Christophe Malherbe. Christophe, you can go ahead and start.
Thank you very much. Welcome all. We are very glad to have you. Very few words of introduction before I give the floor to the trainer, Ziad and Mazen, who will introduce themselves. So as you may know, we are an EU regional program working on the EU South neighborhood, meaning that from Algeria to Jordan, basically this region. And we are working on improving the business environment for small and medium-sized enterprises and for entrepreneurship. One of the salient feature that we are meeting in all the countries in the South Med, but in other parts of the world, and this was underlined in the International Women's Day a few days ago, is the fact that there are huge difficulties for women to access finance, whether as entrepreneur or as women running enterprises. I mean, and we went through striking figures. For example, we realized that if we keep this pace, it will take 150 years to create an equal footing between men and women in terms of access to finance, 150 years. So we all need to do all our best, I mean, to facilitate access for half of the population, actually. And maybe we should not take that only as a challenge, but also as an opportunity to access a market that proves to be actually less risky than other type of market segments in terms of lending. Okay, so we developed for that guidelines, I mean, for non-banking financial institutions to mainstream gender in their operations. Why non-banking financial institutions? Because we believe that the traditional banking sector is reaching its limitations, and that there is a great role to play for the traditional non-banking financial institutions like microfinance, like leasing company, like factoring company, but also for non-traditional, all these emerging instruments that are emerging, I mean, that are now new entrants in the market. I mean, crowdfunding platforms, I mean, fintech solutions, I mean, crypto assets and tokenization. All these solutions can help in reaching and better serving the woman in business in terms of access to finance. Now, as you've seen, the title of the session is how can I grow my portfolio as a non-banking financial institution by better addressing the segment of women entrepreneurs and women and women startups. So meaning that we are resolutely taking the proactive, positive opportunity approach. And for that, we have mobilized our team of trainers, Ziad and Mazen. We discussed and we thought that the best would be to have a short training over one day instead of having like a long training over 2, 3, 4 days, because for the mobilization of people, it's easier. This might be followed by advanced training sessions later on. So let's take this webinar as a way to raise awareness, be aware of the tools. What are the strategic governance issues raised by mainstreaming gender? How does it translate in terms of processes, operations, in terms, of course, of instruments and services, and in terms of financial and non-financial services? So all this package, and this is what we are going to discuss, and we are going to in the afternoon to discuss a case study. Now, what we would like these sessions to be, like last week, we had a training on digitalization and non-banking financial institutions. And next week, on the 24th, we have a training on how to increase the capacities of non-banking financial institutions to raise concessional funding, meaning funding at a cost, at a low cost, okay, or at terms that are flexible enough to address new markets. Anyway, today this is about gender. What we really recommend participants is to take that as a participative process. Do not hesitate to jump in. Use the sorry, I'm a bit sick. Use the discussion thread to jump in, challenge the trainer, ask questions. You will see that we have included also some polls, so you will be consulted to get the opinion of the audience on some specific topics, so that we can all together discuss. So this is, I would say, more a workshop than an ex cathedra training. So please do not hesitate again to participate. And thank you very much for being with us today. So I will give the floor to Mazen, who is the head of the finance component of the program and who engineered and designed this training with Ziad. Thank you.
Thank you, Christophe. Good morning, everyone. Today, as Christophe mentioned, we will tackle the gender, let's say, issue or the ongoing dilemma for having increased gender in NBFI portfolio, and how to strategize and how to move forward by increasing gender in portfolio and increasing access to finance for the working women or women-led businesses. So this training is, as Christophe mentioned, also is based on the guideline that we developed, and it's can be found in our MED MSMEs website. Today training or session will be like in participatory approach, meaning that we will be consulting you with polls, and we will like to hear from you so that we can build on the next advanced or more in-deep trainings and discussions. Today we will be talking about some challenges, some figures, and the way forward. The session will be around between 2 to 3 hours. We will not have a break and then rejoin again as we did last Tuesday for the fintech. So we will have only one session, and then we will end for today, and then we will discuss afterwards the last training session next Tuesday. Our lead trainer for today is Mr. Ziad Al Refai from Jordan. Ziad, I give you the floor, and you can start by sharing your screen. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Sorry, Ziad. Sorry to interrupt. I have one suggestion, because we have now a kind of experience. Do you mind if everybody switch their camera on, so that we take the picture, group picture first? We start with the group picture instead of finishing with the group picture, if you don't mind. So this is a way also to give faces to the names. Riza, good to see you. Long time. Slim, you're managing the pictures?
Yes, I am. Just a second, so we can have nice shots. Okay. And just another 10 seconds, and we're good to go. There we go.
Bonjour, Anne-France. Bonjour, Mira. Good morning, Mira.
Just another one last shot. Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. You can go ahead and start right now. Have a good meeting.
Now I've done my job as team leader. I will listen to the experts.
Thank you. Actually, good morning. Starting this day at early morning, talking about gender and shedding more light actually about the importance of gender. I would start with a point that was just mentioned by Christoph in the beginning, that how many years that we need actually to bridge the gap in gender equality. Actually, it's more than 100 years at least, 130, 150 years, in order to make sure that the gap is not anymore there between the accessibility or equal rights or what does it mean gender inequality. I would start with the discussion actually today saying that insisting or concentrating more on the participatory approach. It's a webinar. I know it's sometimes it's not easy to run a webinar from one side. I think the way that we are structuring this webinar, it depends on your input. So you will see within the presentation or within the webinar questions and answers that we need to get more information from your experience, because I realized among us, central banks, practitioners, funders, institutions who are really related 100% to our topic, which is incentivize gender participation in the economical activities. So that would enrich this webinar, sharing the experience and exchange the information that we had in our countries, in our institutions, with regard to this topic. And I would start first, actually, with one question pool, which is, I would ask Slim to share. The first pool is about understanding the mainstream gender. What's your understanding of mainstreaming?
Can you see the polls yet?
Yes, I can see. So please, if you choose the answer that you can see from your point of view is the most important one. Maybe all of them are important, maybe not. Maybe all are not important.
I'll give another minute and we'll
Yes.
share the results.
Yeah, sure.
Ziad,
Yes.
so we had 25 out of 48. So do you want me to share the results?
Yes, go ahead.
There we go. Can you see the result?
Yes, I can see the result. So the majority of the respondents is ensuring the gender is taken into account in all policies. And this is in all policies and I will complete in all policies and the programs. The second in line is about promoting gender equality and eliminating gender-based discrimination and bias. No one has chosen C or D, which is prioritizing the voices and experiences of marginalized gender groups, acknowledge the way. Who choose option one? You can just give us the insight of his choice, actually. I need to hear from you, actually.
You can raise your hand.
Anyone who could share with us why he chose number 1? Yes, Vertex.
Okay, Bartek. Good morning, Bartek. Good to see you again.
Varco, for sure.
Varco, I'm sorry.
Good morning, all.
I know.
Okay, so guys, it's really simple. It's when we talk about mainstreaming, it means it should be included in not only in policies and goals and etc. It should be implemented as activities, and it should be ensured that the activity is done with the gender equality or equity in mind. And sometimes it's equity rather than equality. So it's more biased to the gender, to women, to have in design to have it to make a bit of more equality in the whole financial system, for example, if you're talking about financial system or any other type. So it's implementing and designing and executing goals, policies, and activities with regard to the gender gap and the gender equality, and to make sure that your goals are within corresponding to the gender, let's say, equality. Over.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, that's so correct. Who would like also to add to this? Something is not mentioned. Actually, the point here is that we are emphasizing on the importance of having a holistic approach, which means that the mainstream gender should be included in all activities at a country level, a global level. It's not a single operation, or it's not a single activity that could solve the issue and bridge the gap. But there is a holistic approach. There is an ecosystem that it should be planned and implemented at each level, in level of governments, central banks, financial institutions, non-bank financial institutions, association. And as we can see, we will see throughout the day how that is important and what things that need to be considered. If you allow me just to start sharing the screen. Sorry, the mouse. You can see my screen now?
I have a question. Yes.
Yes,
Can you
yes,
hear
you
me?
can.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
you can.
yes, Louisa.
So it was regarding the other two topics, no, that you cited into the press. Yes, in the poll. My understanding was that we had to answer just one question, but if we could have a multiple answer, I would have answered all of them, because it's true that we have to mainstream, but also it's important that you work on the bottom, and so on pay rise, on opportunities, and so on and so forth. So that it just, I think so, looking what you have here, in fact, you have everything included.
Yes, that's true. And this is what we said about the poll actually itself. There's not a right answer or a wrong answer. I did not say that actually. It's the all answers within it's a procedure that could be followed to make sure that we are considering the mainstreaming gender in our strategies, in our activities, and in all aspects of activities that would reflect on the gender participation. As you can see here, understanding the mainstream gender financial inclusion and the inclusion in general, there are red spots here, and there are unequal opportunities, unequal representation, unequal rights, unequal outcomes with different, let's say, with different percentages or different weight according to each context, each country or each continent, let's say in general. Let's say here, female bank board represent 23%, 8 central banks of governance. This is a percentage where it's a good in the way of improving things compared to before. But we, on the other side with the red, we are saying that unpaid worker women is higher than men usually. So there are some practices, some activities and statistics that show that there is inequality in gender when dealing with gender. But it varies from part to part, but all are important at the end of the day. If you are taking labor force, the participation is 50%, while men is 80%. Sure, there are some reasons behind that. Either policies, either we will see within during the coming screens, let's say with the coming slides, how that affected.
Sorry?
But Suzanne.
May I ask? Yes.
Yeah.
I'm asking about the source of this number and percentage.
This is from study IMF.
Okay. For which region?
This is it for the globe. I would add the resource. It was
yes,
added.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So there are activities, and the gap here, when we're talking about the gap, we are saying that the gap, it will take like at least 130 years to work, according to numbers. Before COVID-19, it was expected that the gap, it would need more efforts, up to around 100 years in order to bridge the gap. But with COVID-19, make it worse, actually, regarding gender gap. So that would affected that to increase and the time that is needed in order to bridge the gap. By the way, this report is depends on statistics from the World Economic Forum report, representing 156 countries who reported to this report. This was called Formal Global Gender Gap Report, published in 2021. Just to answer your question, Steve, Suzanne. The reason why the attention is important, to give more attention to gender participation, because we know that from our experience and our day-to-day life, that we know that women and female are they are half of the population. They are high educated and high literacy, let's say. Business innovation has been shown statistics that 34% of revenue from innovative products due to participation of gender. If it's the companies with greater gender diversity, has more 34% of revenue innovative, while it's much higher than companies with less participation. Business founders, recently, the numbers has been doubled for women to start businesses, while for men, it was increased by 55%. Life expectation also is higher. So this is why we need to take care of a power in our economy that's not used well in a way or another to improve what we can achieve in terms of economic growth, in terms of development, and in terms of fostering the quality of improving quality of life. So in that regard, actually, and this is a very also a part of the good news, which is one of the moving to the financial, let's say, gap and gender gap. One of the indicators that shows that in high income economies, which is our, let's say, our consultation now, it's about financial inclusion, about participation of gender in economical activities. As you can see here, that in high economies, the gap is closing. While in low income and middle income economies, however, there is a growth. There's more women included in the economy, but the gap is still there. Do you believe that this is true from your opinion, your experience, from your country, from your institution, that there's the gap still in our area, let's say? Do you believe that this is, or this is something reality in reality? Some countries, they don't have such thing maybe, or some institution, at least they focus more, so the gap is bridging, let's say, or another, decreasing. What has been done so far actually in order to do so in high income economies, countries, and what has not been done actually in the countries like in the low and middle income economies. This is why we want to see what we can do to learn from the experience actually. And this is very important. We are talking about account ownership has grown. There are some other criteria when we are talking about gender participation in the financial and non-bank financial institution, in the financial sector, in financial economy. There are some other important indicators that we should look at, but this is the most used indicator, let's say, as an indicator of participation in the economy. Any comment, any question to hear? And why?
Yet some participants are writing
I don't
in the chat, like Vaco and Firas.
Hold on, I want to open the chat screen. Yes, because I'm.
So, for example, Vaco is saying the gap is there, if not worsened. And Firas Hamoud is saying he agrees on that.
Yeah, okay. So that's so good. Actually, this is what we believe, that this is one of the challenges that we are still facing, that however there are some improvements and there is more inclusion and more participation in the financial sector, but the gap, there are still the same, as you can see throughout the years since 2011 until the most recent data for the globe. It's like 2017, it's a growth from female participation, let's say, less than 40% and to 50%. So, which is, there's an improvement, let's say, in a way or another. I will use this, I will stop here and I will use this video to share this video. The video has a voice, but it's a music. So if you are not hearing anything, it's not, you are not losing that much actually. There are some explanation on the screen and writing the comments there. Subtitles. Okay, so let's see this short video together and see why the main challenges, what are the main challenges? See it again, if you did not manage to catch the subtitles?
Ziad, is it possible to run it at 75% of the speed rather than normal speed?
How I can do that?
In the settings, supposedly.
On the same video, settings, no.
If not, just run it again. It's not an issue.
Run it again, hold on. So, in your opinion, what do you think that are the reasons actually of still having the gap in the lower income countries or middle income countries? What do you think? I need to hear it from you. It's, as we said, it's interactive from your context, from your experience. In addition to this video, has mentioned some reasons actually of.
Yeah, so can I take the turn?
Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
So it has a lot of multidimensional factors, I guess. It's because of the domestic politics, international politics, and because the issue that we are not able to look at the gender gaps within a improvative way. We all know that there is a gender gap between in the job sectors, in the education, and so on, but now we can see that women are not able to reach the technological devices enough, and it also strengthens the gap, like reaching the resources and knowing knowing about the world. So maybe we should focus on more international arena that women are able to reach the technology and also the technological devices and the technology of education, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, Mary. Who want to add more? Anyone? Maggie?
Yes, please. Thank you. I believe that one of the main challenges that most of the projects are not working in while implementing, or in the implementation phase, is working on social norms. Okay, gender norms, of course, is important, but social norms, working on the underlying roots of the inequalities, would actually make it better when we implement the project, even if we find solutions for women, but we didn't change the mindsets, we didn't change the harmful social norms, nothing would be happening, or we wouldn't be able to do enhancements in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Yeah, I think there are so many reasons, either practices, policies, gender norms, let's say, sometimes technology. And I think Mary mentioned something about technology. We will see it with the coming
can I add something?
Slides. Mary, yes.
Yeah. So as Maggie said, if projects are for limited times and they can just change the things for the limited times and they can just create awareness, but the real problem is, for me, I guess, changing the culture and the status quo on the gender issues, and let society and also the politicians see that there is a huge, huge problematic issue going on between gender. So if we can change the mindset, as Maggie said, and if we can change the domestic policies and domestic issues within the country, we are not able to solve the solve the gender gap within the society, because the projects belong to limited time and limited resources, but the policies are not like that. Thank you again.
Yeah, that's I think there are two main points here, which is gender norms, and then another thing, which is the mindset. However, saying this, but I believe throughout the years, in each context, in each country, things are improving, but slow. And this is one of the challenges, let's say, how to affect the mindsets for the societies of, let's say, when we are talking about labor markets, and when we are talking about economical opportunities. So I think there are still more things to be done in order to make sure that that gap is going to bridge or to decrease more and more barriers. However, this gap is decreasing, but according to the statistics, due to COVID, affected negatively to increase back part of that, let's say, gap in gender. Yes? Aladdin, you want to add something? No. Okay, but just before we move to the next slide, which shows that why we need to make sure that the women are, let's say, in general, it's a growing economic force. And it's growing. We cannot wait to the coming at least 130, 150 years in order to bridge the gap. There are women have 3/4 of legal rights compared to men, 16 and 18%. And this is one of the things that we will see, one of the challenges in low income countries and some middle income countries, the usage of internet. And this is what Maggie has mentioned, or Mary, about fintech and the importance to bridge the gap through fintechs, because this is would let's say, override some challenges that is faced by female participation in economical activity. Account ownership also in developing countries is 68% for women compared to 74% for men. The saving appetite, let's say, in general, it's low, but again, for men, it's higher than women, the same access to finance. However, saying this is the business investment in business, founding businesses for women, is still too low comparing to the total of investments has been done for businesses in forming and founding some new businesses. For women, it's just 2%. And this is a very recent study has been done in 21, and comparing with the 2020, that is still the same. Nothing changed regarding investment in founding businesses for women. And this is another fact that we need to take care of, and to see the holistic approach, and to believe that we cannot by ourselves, a single institution or a single power that can do to decrease the gap or fill the gap, let's say, between gender in regarding to access to financial, let's say, industry or for the financial products and services. It's a holistic approach that we need to take care of. I will run another poll also, actually, that would concentrate what are the main reasons the most important reason, actually, of the gender gap from your experience, from your context, and your position and an institution as a regulator or investor or. So if you can, Slim, run the poll too. Slim, you hear me? Mazen?
I'm here, Ziad. I'm running the poll too.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
I'm just Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Ziad, give another 30 seconds. We only 15 answers.
Yeah, okay. How many answers we got?
We got 16 out of 47. Okay. Well,
Yes.
we are at 25. You want me to share the poll or wait?
Yes,
Okay.
go ahead.
Sorry, another. Yes. Okay, okay. There we go. There is a result. Okay. Can you see the result?
Yes, I can see the result. What's your comment actually about the responses? There are nearly equal importance for the second and third: gender-based discrimination and based on finance sector, women lower income and assets, making it harder to access financial services. Who could elaborate more? Who choose the second option, second choice? Can just give us his insights. Any volunteer?
May I?
Yes.
It's Luis again.
Yes, yes, go ahead, Luis.
So I didn't answer the second one, but I would like to add something that gender-based discrimination in the financial sector is often a perception. It's that it's thought that women, they don't understand financial products or something. They are not, I could say, brave enough, to risk. And it's a different attitude of women against risk. It's not that it's not understood. It's not that it's not confidence or something like, I could say that it's a fault for the women. So since there is this diversity on approaching finance and approaching access to finance, there is this discrimination on the financial sector based on the perception that there is this diversity and this diversity is not understood. So the reality at the end of the fact is that women have lower access to assets, to income, and so it's harder for them to access to finance. I don't know if I make it clear, but if it's true, the all three, A, B, C, one is the consequence and the cause of the other. So this is what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Luis. Yeah, actually, there is an issue of a perception from both sides. Let's say perception from entrepreneurs, MSME, women-led businesses, from the difficulty on accessing financial service provider, non-bank financial institution. On the same time, there is a perception from institution that it's really difficult to serve. And you will see in the also one of the solutions how institution has been developed or developed some certain type of products that to tackle this issue of perception to facilitate access to finance. I agree. You choose number 3, which is the most common important one, and not the correct answer. All are correct, as you just said. But this is one of the reasons in some countries lack of income and assets in order to access financial institution that would stop them from accessing the service because they don't have it. So startups, new businesses, founding new business, investment in new business, as we just mentioned in the previous slide, it's just 2% in women businesses. So that is the challenge. Also, who choose number 2? I need to hear from his or her insight about why, from their context, actually, maybe from their experience, they have chosen option 2. Remember that it's a participatory approach of doing this webinar. We need to hear from you as much as we can, and not just presenting a slides and that's
okay,
it.
Ziad, I chose Ziad, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you well.
Okay, so I have chosen gender-based discrimination and biases in the financial sector as it's a representation of 2 underlying issues, which are the legal part and let's say social norms part, which are reflected in this answer. It is included in addition to the services that are not either tailor-made or designed for women, not having gender, let's say, a lens in the design and implementation, in addition to the what I said about the social norms and the legal background. Over.
Yes, thank you. Actually, this is also one of the points that we just hint to it when I was talking about the third choice, which is the financial institution, how they could develop products that are meeting the needs. And this is a general statement that we keep hearing it since the last 20 years in the non-bank financial institution, that in order to success, you have to develop products meeting the needs, but they never, most of the institutions, some of them they did, that they listen and identify the unique parts of the needs of the women-led businesses or women MSMEs. How to tackle that need differently, that means they have to develop a unique product to meet that needs in a different way, not in one-fits-all methodology or marketing or product development, that we have this product, anyone can apply as long as he has the eligibility to prove or to provide in order to get the finance. So that is the challenge, actually, one of the challenges that we are going to talk about. Norms, yes, I think yes. Acquisition of assets, acquisition or having income is another, let's say, number 1 criteria in order to apply to access financial institutions, either in terms of account ownership or access to credit in a way or another. We will move now to the second part, let's say, which is some facts and figures, and I will show to you this graph, and I need your insight about this graph. You could say, just try to explain it to us, or to see what is, according to IMF 2017, has shown different, let's say, account financial institution percentages of accessing to account ownership and financial inclusion, and the gap according to continent. Who would like to elaborate more to this slide? To share with us what he understood from it? I don't know if you can see my mouse, the mouse on the screen, the cursor. You can see it, huh?
Yes, Ziad, yes.
Yes, we can see it, yes.
Actually, as you can see here, the account at financial institution accounts at financial institution percentage of population between men and women, which is, this is the financial inclusion ratio, let's say. It's the highest in Europe, the lowest in Africa. And Middle East, it's in the moderate, let's say, in between. And the gap here, we can see that there's a gap between male and female. The female is lower. In more depth, the gender gap here throughout the years, starting to, sorry, Nardine? No, okay. So again, more in depth of the trend in 2011 until 2017, you can see here that the gap in Africa is growing, while in some other countries it's stable more or less, or declining in Europe. So this would say the largest gap is, which is in Africa, it's around 9%. The lowest gap is in Asia, which is around 2-3%, more or less. The same thing for Europe, which is around 2-3%. While in the Middle East, the gap is much higher, which reached to around 10 to 12% in average. More in depth about the size of the gap, again, according to the study has been done with CCAP. The gap here for the micro enterprises and SME finance gap in billions of dollars. The total gap here is around 719 billion. For female or women businesses is 173 billion. The largest gap, because you know the business is much more concentrated for men, it's 473 billion. For SME, the total gap is around 4.5 trillion. 1.5 for women, and the rest are for men. And this shows that the gap in amounts, there is in developing country, there are more than 131 million business. 40% of it have unmet needs. The 5 trillion, which is the total of the gap for micro and small, the female representing, let's say, this 170 billion and 1.5 trillion in a total gap. More in depth, to see how much is the percentages and the amount regarding the gap of the 173 billion here, we are talking about this number. Sorry, the cursor. The 100 more details about this number, which is 173 billion. You can see it's the largest gap is 103 billion. It's in Africa, then MENA, Sub-Saharan Africa, and the Middle East, 16, representing 29%. What's this? Why this? I don't know why I have the red circle. You see a red circle here? I did not get anything. Sorry, this is a technical. Yeah. So this is the micro gap, and for the SME gap, women-owned businesses, it's the largest. It's around 1.2 trillion. representing 59%. In the MENA region, 16%, representing 22 billion for the SME, yes. For the micro, in the MENA region, 16 billion, and the percentage of the total gap of that regard, it's around 29%. What do you think with this number? Is it large gap in our region, in the MENA region? Far in terms of money, let's say. However, it's the gap here is not that much actually compared to other regions. We could be considered as the lowest gap. But again, this is because of size of it. There is 131 million business in the MENA, and the developing country, 40% are for men, for women. So accordingly, the gap is lower for women than the gap for men. East Asia has the highest gap. What do you think? Your comments. Do you believe that it's a controllable level of gap, or we cannot do anything? I'm trying to throw out some questions. What do you believe? Nothing to add? Okay, we'll go to the third pool. If you can, Slim, run the third one. Move to the next.
The next pause here, right?
Yes, 4-3. Why it's important?
Ziad, can you please, by the time Slim or the participants answer, if you can close the file, the PowerPoint, and start it again, maybe the red circle will be removed.
I don't know. This red circle from my, I don't know.
Yeah. Close the file and then share it, open it and share it again.
Can you see the poll first?
Yeah, okay, I will do. I don't know why that one happened. Hold on, just a second. I will stop sharing. This is at my screen. I don't know why. I don't know what's happened to this.
Yeah, close the file. Close it.
I closed the file, but the screen have.
No, we can still see your screen.
Really?
So close the file, close it totally, and open it again.
Excuse me, yes, it's I guess it's someone who pressed annotate, which is at the left side of the screen.
Okay.
So the one who pressed annotate, he must erase it. Yes. Check if it works now. And I tried to press annotate to erase it, I couldn't erase it.
No, I just, it's now disappeared from my screen.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, share again then.
Yeah, hold on. We reached to a slide full 3, so?
Yeah.
3.
In the meanwhile, Ziad, the poll is not ready, so can you see it?
Yeah, I can. I see.
Okay. We have already just, we have 16 answers so far, so that's really good.
You can see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
With no circles, huh?
Yeah.
How many answers we have now?
We have 21 out of 50.
Please.
Okay, so we have 29 out of 49. I'm sharing the results, and actually it's obvious. There we go.
I can expect the answers. Oh.
Yeah, it was like obvious actually.
This will actually try to encourage people to answer maybe and to play the role of the devil. Okay, so most of you has chosen number 1, women access. Why we are here today actually? Because we believe women access to financial service that could do a lot. One of its poverty reduction, which is the main challenge that the world, that developing world is economies are facing. Actually, also after pandemic. So please, I need your input actually. Why you choose that? Not only poverty reduction. Maybe there are other reasons, or there are other insights about your choice. I need to hear from you. Your input. We have around 50 participants. Don't be shy. Exchange. And this is why the webinar.
Good morning.
Good morning. Who's that? I did not get the name. Hello? Anyone? Share? Or move to the next slide.
Yeah, maybe so I can add something. I'm sorry because of the crowded, because in Turkey now it's a lunchtime.
Yes.
So as we believe in equality, the first option is the suitable one for all of us. But maybe we can just ask ourselves that why we are not choosing the other options. So here is the answer, because we believe in equality and we believe in filling the gaps in the gender issue. So I can add a comment like that. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you again for your input. Actually, that's gender gap. How would bridging that or decreasing the gap that would impact, let's say, economic growth and stability? Let's say gender equality, it would improve economic welfare and labor force participating in labor force, labor productivity, and more financial inclusion that would lead to better benefit from the half of our population, the formal sector and the informal sector. And we know from our context, let's say, from our experience, there are so many activities that could be done in the economy, and the female and women are who could do it. We know that there are informal business or informal economy, and there is the formal economy. And most of the data that we gathered until recently, it was about the formal participation, which is the number were really maybe shocking, but with the informal, including more data about the informal business activities, that we believe that it would foster the economic growth and the stability of the economy, because we know that 90% globally are SMEs, MSEs, and even more when we include MSEs that represent the GDP of the globe. That also another reason, external competitiveness and balance of payments, improve the resilience of the economy, enhance the perspective balance payment stability and export. And there are so many statistics and study and data shows that women participation in economical activities and businesses, there is a correlation between it and the export goods and products from that countries, which means that there are something here that we should take care of. What is the relation between women participation in businesses and improving the export of the country? And there's a huge studies done trying to find how it is increased the competitiveness of the country by participating or by more women participating in the economic activity. In the financial stability side, because we are believers that when women are participating in senior levels of a financial provider, regulator, there is a high correlation between that and the stability of the institution, and even generating more profit or revenues, diversifying products than other institution who doesn't have that privilege, let's say, in general. And there's another study saying, which is really, I don't know if you could confirm from your experience, that they associate the participation of women at non-bank financial institution led to decreasing non-performing loans at that institution. Who could give us, let's say, his opinion about that, or his experience or her experience? Is that right? Female participation at a senior level at a non-bank financial institution or banks led to improving non-performing loans and reflected on more stability to the institution. Any input? Experience? Do you believe that is right or not? I believe that they are exaggerating here. Why men they can't work, or they don't know how to manage? Hello? You agree or disagree for this fact? Because you don't see me, maybe. Now you are seeing me.
There is not the social impact. You know, if women are more included into the social activities, so as we said, they are mainstream. I could say it's mainstreamed. Their voice. Mm-hmm. There will be also not just economic growth and stability, but also more social stability, in my view. But I'm, as I said, a sustainable finance expert, so my point of view is always against sustainability.
Yeah, this is. I think that would reflect to that level actually, and there are a point of view that we're still missing at this, let's say, a management level, which is the participation of female and women in financial institutions. That would give another insight, a different insight that what we were used to actually before. And this is why we are saying that the importance of participation, and this is what governments need to address such challenge, how to impose, or not governments, central banks even, And I think some countries and some central banks in the MENA region has endorsed certain procedures and policy to encourage including women participation at the management level or at the board level, or even not only an ownership of institution. That may be out of control, but at least enabling participation at a seniority level, board level, governance, that would give more insight and a different perspective to the institution that affected and associated to different factors, which is a business performance, private public sector performance also has been improved, and there is association and there is around, let's say, a correlation between the participation and the performance in general, not only in the financial sector stability. The income inequality, let's say, inequality, we know that the gap is there between gender, let's say men and women. But improving that, it would improve the social stability, improving the income, improve the social stability, and then that would lead to better economic growth. And we could see this from our experience, actually. Practitioners among us from the microfinance institution, non-bank financial institution in the region, they could say a lot about this, how improving income, increasing the income through female participation, that would be reflected on the social norms of the MSME activity. And this is one of the main reasons why we said that gender gap is a crucial. It's not a thing that we just want to implement because we want to give more empowerment, just empowerment to the word of empowerment. No, if you are caring about more social, more economical improvements, growth in the economy, we need to benefit from the half of the population who are the female, the women, to give them the right to do whatever they want, to start up a business, facilitate accessing to finance, not only giving them the option, moving the barriers is another challenge. Understanding the barriers, we need to know how as important to make that happen in order to enable participation of women and women-led businesses. Any comment here? I tried this time. Sorry, Louise.
Can I just add something? It's very interesting, the relationship of cause and effect that you're placing here between women participation, having them access to more financial, let's say, stability, etc., and the correlation between this and having a more sustainable, prosperous, let's say, economy. And it is very much interesting. I just wanted to note that also it's about male persons accepting and not only accepting but also positively participating in making this happen. That will this will be implemented, because at the end of the day, when simply put, when both parties, let's say husband and wife, I'm just simplifying the issue, but then I'm giving you an example, are working, so everything in the house should be done by both of them in equal parts, or something like that, so that they be able to live together. So not only just, okay, as man, you can work, or I'm not against, or I encourage you to work. No, put your sleeves back and support her in other ways also. Over.
Yeah, actually, thank you for your comment. Actually, that's what they emphasize on the why we need, or why we have to address that participation, actually, and how to to investigate more, to know more. And this is our responsibility as a non-bank financial institution, because we are the last step where we can execute activities to empower financially. But there are, as we said and you said in the beginning, that this is a thing that we need to take care all of us, not only non-bank financial institution. It's an ecosystem. It's a holistic approach that we should take care of. With this statement, actually, I would move to not the pool 4. I tried actually just to tell you something. Last time, the experience was I need more participation from the audience, the participants at the webinar. I tried this time to increase more polls, actually, to get your attention and participation. Because I know that webinar usually it's in order to benefit from, we need interaction. So I encourage you all actually to participate. I know there are some of you are busy with something else, but really your experience is needed, and your input would enrich the benefits that all participants then they can get actually. Otherwise, we could share the presentation, the slides, and say that that's it. Webinar also, it's rigid actually. There's no so many activities that we could do, especially when there's a number of participants above 30, above 25. There are some limited activity that we could do together. But the only thing that we could do is just to participate, to exchange your knowledge, to exchange your thoughts, your inputs, your comments. That would make it much more good or entertainment, let's say, for everyone to attend and to benefit from the value. So please, Slim will move to the pool number 4.
And Ziad, can you please put the presentation in slide mode so it can enlarge the...
Sorry, I did not. Thank you, Mazen. Okay.
Okay, Ziad, so poll 4, right?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Yes. Now, how many answers we got?
We have so far, we have 20 out of 49. So I give a little bit. And it's kind of tight. I'll go ahead and share Ziad, huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Here there are equal 3/3 actually distributed between lack of financial literacy, cultural and social barriers, and gender bias in financial institutions. We mentioned that maybe option. Lack of financial literacy among women and cultural barriers, let's say, social barriers in a way or another. But I'm a little bit curious about others. Who could share with us other reasons?
Hello.
Yeah, Hasna.
I have chosen others because I can refer to another poll which mentions the fact that women have less assets than men, so which is an obstacle for them to access credit. And usually, especially in Lebanon, banks cannot offer credit unless there is a non-movable asset as collateral. So in order to access credit, she has to own a non-movable asset. So I think that the main obstacle to access finance, to access credit, is the fact that women have lower assets, I guess, than men. This is why I've chosen others.
Thank you, Hasna. But again, I will address the question for, do you think that is a bias from the financial institution? Because we know the fact that women have less access to movable assets or assets. But do you think that because the bias in the financial institution itself did not develop to meet the client's needs or ability to provide the criteria, credit criteria, let's say?
I don't think so. In my own perspective, I don't think so.
Yeah, go ahead. Why?
I don't think we have this. Yeah, I don't think this is the main issue or the main problem.
Yes, that would be, yes. We are not looking, I agree 100% your input that it's not the only thing, but this is one of the things that we should take care of. Sah? Is that right?
Yes, yes. But it is not the main issue, the main obstacle.
What would be the main obstacle from your point of view, Hasna? From your experience, you are at a central bank, Sah?
Yes, yes.
What is the main, from your point of view as a regulator, what would be actually?
As I told you, the main obstacle for women to access credit is the fact that they usually own less non-movable assets than men, and this is also a cultural problem because we see that usually there's this cultural idea that non-movable assets are usually owned by men more than women. And maybe I think the fact that enhancing financial literacy for women can, of course, also helps in facilitating access to financial services.
Yeah, that's another point. Yeah, actually, yes, I agree with you. There are so many things that need to be considered in order to make sure either it's a perspective, as maybe Mary, not Mary, maybe Louisa mentioned, perception.
Yes.
And how we could manage that thing, incentivize, enable, enhance the infrastructure.
Indeed.
Yes, to make sure that it's happening, because acquisition of movable assets or fixed assets or whatever, if there are some other barriers preventing women of having that, that would lead to, let's say, a barrier of accessing to financial services. But again, the question is here, why we are mentioning that there is a responsibility over the non-bank financial institution, the regulators, that how to enable and incentivize institutions to consider that, to take more risks actually, not to have just one product with a collateral of fixed assets, movable assets, in order to facilitate or to move that barrier. We need to think of alternatives, different business model, and this is what we will see with the coming slides. Actually, thank you.
So Ziad, so what we learn from Hasna is that the products designed in Lebanon, for example, for men, for MSMEs, with collateral, they can provide collateral, does not apply for the working women. And this also can lead us to that there is no product, designed product specific for women. So this is the point that also maybe they will lead us to a problem, which is designing special products for working women, maybe with less collateral or a simplified access to finance.
Indeed. I think this problem will be solved in case the law of movable assets will be enacted. There is a draft law there has been work being done on it, which authorizes or gives the possibility to banks to offer credit facing movable assets as collateral. But this needs a legislative framework in order to be enacted, which has not been done yet. It's the law on movable assets, movable assets as collateral.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we had, I think, Shuru and Firas raised their hands. If you have a comment, please.
Hello, yes, I'm Shuruk. I very much agree with what Hasna said. And I would like to add to it is that actually the problem with access to finance for women is that most of them are also employed in the informal sector, and thus they cannot provide the required documentations and proofs when they're applying for loans or getting finances. So the mitigation for this is, I think that there must be an alternative way of assessing an alternative way for credit assessment and risk for these women who are mostly in the informal sector. So maybe like based on behavioral scoring, or I don't know what in general. I very much agree with what Hasna said.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will and Vaco.
Vaco and yeah.
There was Firas before me, I think.
Firas. Yes, Firas. Sorry, Firas. Firas. Firas, it seems. Hello, Firas? No. Okay, Vaco.
We moved with Vaco.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so very important things. So I totally agree with all. I just wanted to add that in general, financial and technological awareness / literacy, let's say, will help more women to be able to mitigate some of the other risks that there are, including moving in insecure areas, leaving their businesses / homes, etc. It will. These are also things that affect their access to finance and the type that are. We see more women working in the online marketing / providing businesses that that gives them more flexibility, and this is why the technological issue would have them having access to finance like an e-wallet or something. And I would need to add that in general, having a minimum of informal sector, or at least having some kind of traceability and let's say ranking of income and credit, let's say history, etc. information also would help in general the informal sector and women in particular to access finance more and to have more income. Over.
Yes. I think out of your comments, all there should be there's a need actually in digging more in data and details of information in order to be innovative. By the way, there is a correlation between participation of women at the financial institution and innovation. And one of the statistics that has been shared with the IMF, the World Economic Forum, how much is businesses with greatest participation of female women at a senior level governance, board, etc., has much more, they are much more creative and innovative. And this is what we mean. We cannot meet the needs of a new segment, which is the women-led businesses, without knowing exactly the details of their needs in terms of amount, in terms of availability of collateral, in terms of availability of connection, proximity, all the outreach concept that we keep saying in the non-bank financial industry. How to make sure to remove that barriers. One of it is thinking of how to design a product that would meet, to be innovative enough to meet that need with the preferences that they would request. On the same time, balance between that and the risk that the institution that could take, and to mitigate, as you just mentioned back at the end, there is a responsibility in the institution to think how they could reduce the credit risk, either credit history, financial literacy. There are so many things that we need to be done from the bank financial institution and the eco and the stakeholder of the industry to make sure that it's going to happen. And now we'll move now to the next video, just to talk about that would take about highlight the gender norms according to CGAP. I will share with you this video now. Late again? What do you think? Let's do it again. It's 1 minute. Yes. I think this video comes to confirm most of the importance, most of the points that we mentioned about gender norms acquisition of assets using technology. Believe it or not, this is numbers, statistics. According to some, there are CGAP every time or regularly they run surveys about to measure or to identify gaps and what are the practices. And actually, when I saw this video, there are some communities who are still having that barrier of using technology, let's say, and some others, which we believe in the MENA region, that the fixed assets and even the rights of caregiving, actually, and the ability to stay at home. Maybe in Arab MENA region now things is moving and it's changing, but there are still, let's say, in poor communities, still there are some challenges in that kind, in a way or another. From your experience as a practitioner, do you believe that there are still the reasons mentioned here of the priority for give care or caregiving, or the priority of not allowed to have a separate financial position or financial information behind her husband or father or brother at home, ownership of assets, still there are limitations. And you mentioned that maybe with your input, your insights from Lebanon and some other countries, using mobile is still a challenge maybe in some communities. Is that valid gender norms or not anymore? Is it still valid? Yeah, Shireen. Shireen, your mic is off. You are muted. Yes, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. I just pressed wrongly on the button. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much.
But as long as we heard your voice, why just to give us the insight about?
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
Yeah, the question is that about the barriers mentioned, the gender norms in the video. Do you think that is still valid in our communities, in our context, in our countries, and from where you are, Shireen?
I'm putting the mic to hear you better. Sorry, I'm so sorry to repeat. Sorry, the last time. I'm sorry, I wasn't hearing you, but can you repeat the question last time? Sorry.
Yeah, the question is that from your experience, from which country you are, Shireen?
I'm from Egypt, Central Bank of Egypt.
Okay, great. So from your experience, do you think that this gender norms is still valid in your communities, in your country, in your institutions? That the priority for female is to caregiving, let's say, they don't allow to use mobile or technology. Fixed assets has been mentioned actually that there are some limitations, but from you, is it still valid or it's still improving, or it is improving?
Of course, it's not still valid. It's improving, and there is a great achievement. If I'm going to talk about Egypt, we have a great achievement from regarding the gender aspect or the gender equality, if I can say that. And also, we always mention in our surveys and things like that we don't have bias or discrimination in the laws or the regulations toward the women. However, we are working to have more regulations supporting the woman.
Yeah.
Because the problem is not in the discrimination. There is no discrimination in the regulations or the laws. There is a pure equality in the regulations and the laws between the women and men. But the problem is cultural barriers, some we can say more financial literacy work to be done in that aspect. But however, what we are working on it is to promote more regulations supporting women. In Egypt, we have issued a unified definition for the women-owned business definition.
Yeah.
And we started collecting the data to have a unified definition among all the banks. And we are working on having the gender gap. We are working on to have the gender gap in Egypt. And yeah, I hope that I answered the question.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Maybe Shireen, I will need your input in the following parts with the role of the government central banks, because I know the experience of Egypt has done so far since 2011, when they started doing the financial inclusion strategy, gender participation, definitions, and even associations that would enhance the access to finance. I know that there are a huge improvement in Egypt, and however, maybe in the other part, Shireen, we would need your input heavily about this. Thank you again, Shireen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. It's a good coincidence that you opened the mic and to hear you and to know your experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Shireen. So we'll move now to the challenges that we just mentioned. I think we all mentioned that lack of regulatory barriers. This is one of, now Shireen has just mentioned, and even Hasna in the beginning from Lebanon. The legal and regulatory barriers, yes, there are. There are in different aspects. And we are talking about trade and commerce. We are trying acquisition of assets. We are talking about accessing to financial services. It varies from country to country, but again, in general, this is one of the main challenges that would prevent enhancing the accessibility to financial services. Lack of collateral, we keep saying it. Lack of collateral, this is one of the main challenges, actually, especially for institutions who still have that requirement in order to allow access to finance at to their products. And this is crucial in a way or another. And the registry of movable assets that maybe Hasna has mentioned in Lebanon. Some other countries, they already did, like Palestine, and some other, they're already in the progress on developing, let's say, a registry in a way or another. Limited financial literacy, and this is very important. And I think financial literacy, however, we are the more, half of the population are female and women, and they are educated in the MENA region, well educated actually, maybe sometimes higher than men in certain fields. But again, financial literacy to the poor community is an issue. To our local community, we still feel that there's a need to improve that position, that part, because financial literacy is the most crucial part of the success of the business, or how to manage your credit, or how to manage your financing. And I think practitioners among us, they could confirm that. We know that entrepreneurs in general, women-led businesses, they have the know-how and they have the experience and they have how to do their business. But when it comes to numbers and how to manage your income, how to differentiate between your income and your liquidity, net profit and liquidity. What is the difference between both? Because most of women-led businesses, especially the micro and lower scale of small, they think that liquidity is the profit. And how to differentiate, how to make sure they manage their liquidity properly in order to meet their commitments at the end of the day, if they are accessing financial institution. And then the coming point, which is really important, and we mentioned it so many times throughout the day until now, maybe 10 or 15 times, lack of gender-sensitive financial products. We know that this segment is different than what we used to serve before as a financial institution. But however, we did not develop a unique products to consider the gender sensitivity or the gender requirements, because lack of assets, lack of income, gender norms may prevent them to access some certain activity that we need to, our requirement need to take consideration while developing or developing a new product. Limited access to technology, we mentioned it, and this is one of the challenges that maybe the difference between men and women in using technology, mobiles and data on mobiles, using application, there are a gap in that regard. So how we can, even when we introduced the e-wallet, I remember from our experience, when we started to introduce the e-wallet services to the local community, it was men has the highest technological mobile, brand new, and while female has the old one, which is no access to technology through that mobile. So there are so many reasons why, but again, this is one of the challenges that really need to be addressed. Lack of devoted time to enterprise development, and this is because we mentioned the caregiving, that the 75% of their time it's going to be the priority to the household, to the home, to the kids, to husband, fathers, brothers, etc. And this is one of the gender norms that we have in our local community in a way or another. Lack of networking, organization, association that would empower or educate or enhance the financial literacy of local community women businesses, entrepreneurs, either micro or small or medium even. That's also one of the challenges that's facing increasing the access to financial service. Is there anything not mentioned here in this slide? Please, you could add if you would like. Would like to add? No? We'll move to the next slide. The next slide is another video, how to genderless. Nadine? No. Okay, so I will share gender investing. One of the things that we said that 2% at women business founders, they're receiving only 2% of the total investments happening in average in the developing economies. So this video just to give more deep insight about this. I will share this. No. Late again. Yes. Your thought about the video, your ideas. I think it's confirmed what we've mentioned, huh? Gender investing, actually, we need first to understand, let's say, the social norms, the gender norms, and the social norms of our context, it's our country, our local community, in order to better let's say, understand or increase the inclusion and the usage of the financial services. Data analysis, there's a huge data now available. The AI, let's say, artificial intelligence and technological platform has enabled us to access that data that would help actually to benefit in order to innovate products, business models, way of serving people, especially when we are talking about technology. And now the penetration of technology in the globe actually is very high, reached to 90 and even more, 100% of our population target audience are using a platform, using technology and have access to technology. And this is thing that would provide us with data, and data that would be benefit, or that it would be really important in order or to use or penetrate differently, utilize differently in order to develop different products or innovate new business models. And this is the reforms. One of the things that, and regulation, we know that one of the challenges is the lack of regulatory supports or policies, and maybe reforms at a country level need to be addressed carefully, actually, to make sure that barriers are not anymore valid. And then we could see the results, how it's improving. And we have such success stories. Shireen has given to us some numbers about Egypt, and we have other case studies around the world, in Palestine, in Jordan, in Lebanon, and all of these countries, Tunisia, Morocco. They have done so great things, actually, at a level of, let's say, the policies reforms and regulation reforms at the government level or at the level of the central bank regulators and the regulators in general. Then we keep saying that in order to incentivize others in other institutions or other countries in order to implement or to learn from our experience, we have to keep mentioning or keep showing the evidences of impact.
Wait a minute.
Asking?
Wait. No, I'm sorry, Ziad. I'm sorry.
So keep sharing evidence of impact. This is very important in order to make sure that we are doing the right thing to exchange, disseminate the success that we had in different aspects, let's say. I keep saying about the experiences because this is the experience that it would give an incentive to institution or government or country in order to endorse such or similar activities, reforms, in order to make sure that we are utilizing the 50% of our population, formal or informal sector. And you mentioned something about the informality, and I know that the MENA region, and you know from your context, from your country, that there's a huge portion of our economical activity still in the shadow economy, informal economy that really no one knows about. But however, they are the source of income for millions, billions of families and households that would be reflected in their social welfare, let's say, in a way or another. Any question or any comment to hear before moving to the next part, which is the impact on the economy and the impact on the non-bank financial institution? Women empowerment, we say here gender impact on economy. Women empowerment, we mentioned that poverty reduction, economic growth, closing the gender gap, improving the financial. This is why we have to take care of the importance of having such policies and reforms at the government level and the policy makers, let's say. For non-bank financial institution, I think the practitioner could confirm this, and even more, who could elaborate more on those points from the practitioner among us? the impact of gender inclusion in their performance as an institution. Actually, we know that it's a room for growth. Market that unserved, untapped segment, and there's a huge need, as we saw in the beginning, in the first slides, the gap of their needs actually is huge. And then no one is serving, probably designing a new product, innovating a business model that meet their needs to improve their access to financial services. That would lead to a better market penetration, and that would lead to enhancing the growth of the institution, gaining a new market opportunity, therefore growth, therefore profitability, therefore accumulating of income and revenues that would enable them to expand their outreach more and more for the institutions who are not for profit. Improve risk management in terms of diversifying the segments, and this is as long as we have different segments we are serving, that means we are better managing our risks. This one point. The other point is that according to our statistics, there is a big correlation between loans for women and non-performing loans. And I think, again, practitioners among us could confirm that if we do a data analysis on commitment of female with loans, we could see that the non-performing loans is less percentage than male loans. Who could confirm that from their experience? I've heard that we have somebody from the institutions, non-bank financial institution. Who could, there's somebody credit. I've heard in the beginning that there's somebody credit with us.
Hi, so I can confirm I made a couple of studies over the years about that, and my last assessment was before the Lebanese crisis. It spanned on 3 years, ending in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. And it's actually, it was the man had double risk than women in our portfolio. So it encouraged us to actually to give some women loans without guarantors, practically. So this was the conclusion of that statistics and the decision making. It took some time, but this is our experience. Over.
Thank you, Bako. Yeah, I think that is from practitioners that we could confirm that their commitment is much higher actually in accessing to when we are talking about commitment and non-performing loans. Diversified portfolio, this is one of the important points that also, again, different segment. Diversification is good for the healthier institution, rather than depending on one segment, one sector, one area. So diversified portfolio activity, it would enhance the stability of the institution and the continuity of the business, sustainability and continuity concern. That this is one of the main concerns that usually businesses have to take care of. Again, it's part of their responsibility to promote gender equality and part of the social responsibility toward their communities. And this is maybe a part where other non-financial institution banks also take care of part of their social responsibility for the 50% of the population, how we could help them in serving them better in proper products and services. When we are talking about let's say one of the gender inclusion, we talked about gender policy framework, and let's say we are talking about the role of doing some reforms. And this, according to AFI, Alliance for Financial Inclusion, has developed a framework, let's say, in a way or another, how to increase the MSME women-led businesses, MSMEs, and how to take care of increasing or bridging the gap. As you can see here, they defined, because we believe that in order to achieve better performance, numbers, and results, we need to strategize, let's say, our objective. It's not an ad hoc activity, either at the level of the country, of the government, or institutions, anyone in the stakeholders of who has that responsibility of gender inclusion. So they define 6 steps, which is one is developing the enabling environments, which is it's referring to national policies and government policies, central bank policies that would enhance access to finance, and try to figure out where is the bottleneck, where is the barriers is, and how to move that barrier out of the scope, to remove that barrier to facilitate access to finance to our target audience or our market, which is the gender in this case. Again, it gives the importance in pillar 2 about the data. As I said, now technology and accessing technology, it gives us the ability to access a huge data and a huge information. So digging deep in that data and deep dive, let's say, in that data, that would enable us or would show to us or demonstrate to us some areas where we need to take care of. But again, when we depend on data, and data now is available and easy to access. And this is where it's important to know that this is step is the side where we need to invest more in order to improve our business models and our offerings to our target market, either for non-bank financial institutions or for even data for governments and central banks and regulators, policymakers. When they are drafting regulation, data is the source where they should look at in order to make sure that they are tackling all the barriers in a way or another. Pillar 3, it's about the financial literacy. And this is the responsibility, again, part of the policy framework that it should take care of that part. Either, as I said, it's any part of the financial stakeholder should, from his side, he has to consider that this is one of the challenges, which is education and financial literacy. Technical assistance for institution and even for entrepreneurs and MSMEs to make it happen. Digital finance also is part of financial, let's say, stakeholder. The pillar 4, again, it's about collateral. Alternative ways of building credit, as mentioned by Vakwa. I think he mentioned something about the credit bureau and to improve the credit risk, to build the credit history, through building the credit history. So credit bureaus and availability of credit information about our target, which is the gender, female, women businesses, and finding alternatives in a new business model, innovative business model and products that would enable. And this is the responsibility, again, maybe the policymakers has to encourage, funders has to set funds available, institution has to review their processes and their offerings. So it's a collaboration between all the stakeholders, as we can see in the coming slide. Pillar 5, which is digital finance, investing in digital finance and the importance. And you will be surprised with the coming slide that's saying digital finance has positively impacted, reduced the gender gap in financial services. So the more we invest in technology, the more we facilitate technology investment. With this regard, who is the policymaker facilitating that, or the non-bank financial institution or funders, that would faster the process and even double the time, reduce the time needed by 50% to achieve or to bridge the gap. So using technology, now it's become an issue where institutions, stakeholders has to invest in heavily in order to make sure that we reach to different sectors. So the sixth pillar is financial, let's say, leadership, seniority, governance, board of directors. This is at the financial institution, as you said, that there's a huge correlation. They associate the relation between the participation of women leadership at the financial institution and innovation, and maybe more of better performance, more accessing to or reaching to more female women-led businesses. So this, according to FI, it's a general policy or steps, pillars that any institution from the stakeholder should consider in order to define his strategy and activity. And here there are some examples of policies that I just mentioned now, how they introduce, how they can, MSME sector can play a role, MSME, property law, the fixed assets, the regulation, and the sector policies, gender policies in general. This is the role of the pillar. Some examples, we know, I mentioned some examples in Egypt, Shireen mentioned to us, and here in Tunisia, they have reforms of policies that allowed female to open accounts and access to finance without the approval of her husband, or even because it used to be a barrier before. It has been changed in 2017. In Bahrain, they set a target of 30% representation at the board of directors of the financial institution. So there is some regulation and some instructions to financial institutions to consider participation of women at leadership positions. Also in Morocco, tax incentives for banks, actually, tax incentives, and this is another way of doing policies to incentivize financial institutions to lend more to women-led businesses, so they give more tax incentives. And even in Jordan, there are some other activities, a partnership between central bank incentivize institution to develop flexible products with a flexible payments and reduced interest rate. An institution like an example of microfunds for women in Jordan has developed such, let's say, utilize that policy reform from the Central Bank of Jordan. So there are so many examples actually how reforms could work in order to make that happen in a way or another. Do you have any example of your country, from your country, Shireen? Maybe Egypt is not mentioned here. You mentioned that the strategy that you were talking about, maybe Hasna from Lebanon, and maybe others. If you have any examples of policy reforms that government, central bank, regulators, policymakers has done to encourage. Okay, the other topic is, which is one of the, we said that one of things that we need to consider with the stakeholders is the regulators, policymakers. But again, there is another part, which is the public-private partnership that would encourage accessing or facilitating access to finance. And this is a step that institution has to consider, and government that could consider, because we believe that private-public partnership or public-private partnership is very essential and important in building financial infrastructure. Building financial structure or developing financial products or even financial education, providing financial education. So institutions could collaborate together, government, private sector, and financial institution, non-bank financial institution, banks, in order to meet, facilitate and exchange and collaborate, share resources to get better results. And this is how it is managed as let's say, but the public-private partnership in a way or another. The advantages of public-private partnership is, as you can see from the slide, supporting women entrepreneurs. It could be a part of working together to mentor, training, financial literacy program, startups, advocacy. Together we could work advocacy to change or reform or to amend our policies and the practice regulation. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel by our own as a financial institution or us as an individual stakeholder in the whole ecosystem. We could work together in order to enhance our activity and accessibility to.
Tamam.
Sorry?
Rulçi ablan 2 tane soğan istiyor. Eve varınca 2 tane yemeklik soğan verin.
Sabiha?
Diyorum seni.
I think you are not.
Sabiha, can you mute yourself, please? Thank you.
So this is in general, let's say the private private partnerships. Importance actually in financial. Sorry, this is no. And the advantages of having such activity, let's say in an institution or in the stakeholder collaboration through public-private partnership in a way of having activities together. Sorry, but stop share. Sorry. Can see my screen now. We talked about fintech and the importance of investment in fintech. You can see my share screen.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Last week, we had a webinar about the financial technology importance. And we said that one of, as linked to the gender norms and gender barriers accessing to financial services, the MSME, women MSMEs, technology has enabled millions of household women to access to financial services easily with no cost and with less cost and cheaper services than what they were received actually in the beginning. And this is, we were talking about the accessibility and the proximity of the financial services provider. Now with technology, it become not there actually as one of the challenges, because technology has enabled women-led businesses to access to financial service. And you can see here in 2020, the gender gap has been less with fintech in all of Africa, Asia, Middle East, and Latin America. And this is the difference between. So the percentage of fintech that could do is to foster the process of inclusion for more women-led businesses. And this is where we can invest in more. So institutions, again, stakeholders, digital finance, financial services provider, DFS, regulators, funders, all can work together in order to facilitate investing in technology, because that would lead to better access and inclusion to gender financial services. Funders and investors, what they can do, funders and investors. And we know that in our region, funders and investors has a great role actually in supporting policy reforms, regulators, institutions, associations, all the stakeholder sides. And we have different stories and different success stories in different parts of the world, actually, in our countries, in Jordan, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Egypt, in Morocco, mostly in Palestine, the funders' role is very crucial. That would play the role of organizing the event, organizing the activity, and better understanding, improve the understanding between the stakeholders in each country. The importance of funding initiatives, this is funding, supporting women-led businesses, providing capital and maybe coaching, mentorship, investing in technology, advocating and advocacy activities, conducting research and data. And this is one of the things that we really have to consider heavily, which is the data, and keep doing researches, analyzing data in order to better understand the gender gap and how to improve. Examples actually of sorry, where is that? The other part of the stakeholders who are the associations. And I believe in our countries, in the region, there are associations who are considering, who considered women MSMEs part of their scope in a way, in more details, let's say. Association can play a role also to help funders, to help regulators and policy makers, also in capacity building, in more to access to finance, in advocacy, networking, visibility and recognition of activity of the women-led businesses, promoting the products and activity. And we know from our experience in the region that association can play a crucial role in financial literacy, an important role actually in financial education to the local communities, especially when we are talking about women-led businesses, micro businesses and small at each country level. So that is the one of the role of the association. We're saying that the point that I would like to highlight here, the reason why we are saying of this or mentioning this, that we said that the stakeholder is the ecosystem, the holistic approach. This is the cornerstone of, let's say, of expanding the accessibility of women-led businesses to finance. As I said in the beginning, it's not an issue of individual activity or individual institution. It should be a collective, holistic approach ecosystem that everyone should be, let's say, playing a different or tackling a different aspect from his knowledge and experience and his field of experience. Gender, there are so many examples of gender association that in our countries, like in Tunisia and Jordan, and they have playing a very crucial role actually in developing activities, collaborating between financial institution and the government, like an example of women business in Morocco. This is association, Women Business Association, would work heavily actually with businesses to provide training, to provide network opportunities, access to finance for all women entrepreneurs, with focus with the unprivileged, disadvantaged women. While in Egypt, Women Economic Empowerment Association, it's work capacity building also for women-led businesses, networking, mentorship, and this is why we say that, and even in Jordan, even in Lebanon, Tunisia, the associations, they have the access to the women informal economy, informal business activity. As a regulators, as an institution, financial institution, we don't have that access. So collaboration with them and working together with them and reaching out, improving the financial literacy, it would open the market opportunity for us, or even enable us to better penetrate the market. the MFI strategy, let's say, this is in general, let's say, at the policy level. I would like to run this poll. If you can go, Slim, to poll 7.
Before we take the poll, I think Shireen has a comment.
Yes.
Yes, you have encouraged me to talk, so thank you so much. Also in Egypt, we have the National Council for Women, which is considered like a promoting body for the women. And the Central Bank of Egypt have signed an MOU, or Memorandum of Understanding, with the National Council for Women, aiming to promote the gender inclusion, or the gender financial inclusion in Egypt, inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing this experience. It's great. It's great, actually. I think the association, the stakeholders, if we think of the efforts that we would need in order to bridge the gap, the bottom line is collaboration. The bottom line is the stakeholder working together in order to remove barriers, in order to facilitate accessing to finance, encouraging startups, as you said, building innovative business models, new products and services that would need funders' responsibility, associations, regulators, government, working together in order to tackle this. So, Slim, if you can move to pool 7. Thank you, Shireen, for your input. Slim.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shireen. Slim, can we run pool 7?
In case Slim is having an issue or something, we can proceed and then we see it.
Okay. Now the
Mazen, I'm here. I'm launching the poll. I'm just having some issue with the internet with you.
Okay.
So now I'm back. Here we go. I'm launching the poll right now. And is that the one in your view? There we go.
This is 4.
This is 4. We want 7.
Yeah, but this in the order entire. I mean, the poll number 1 is put like poll 0. So this is poll number 5.
No. We need 7, Slim.
7? Okay, sure. Right away. Just sure. Okay. So poll 7. The last poll, you mean?
Yes.
The last one. There we go. Do you believe in financial institutions?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. There we go. Okay, it's launched already.
How many responded?
Ziad, we have 20 out of 44. So I'll go ahead and share the result, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good. Here we go. Share the results. You got it.
Yeah, so mostly financials should offer more financial education, 33%. 43%, do you believe financial takes step in gender gap? Yes. And there is 19% financial institutions should offer more flexible long term. I think financial institutions offer financial education. This is important. Financial institutions should offer flexibility to gender and women-led businesses. Yes, that's true. And they, at least from basically, actually, they should do something as a financial institution to better penetrate the market and to serve more clients at the MSMEs, women MSMEs in general. I will move to the responsibility to the institution actually in this regard, because I believe it is one of, again, the stakeholder, it's not, in general, all are responsible. But there is a responsibility in our institution as to define the way that how to do proper offerings and what would be needed actually. We know that there are a segment of the market unserved. all the stakeholders of the financial service provider among us, which is non-bank financial institution, has to do something. They are responsible for developing products, services, credit, savings, payments, insurance, remittances, all the we need to have to do steps in order to do that and to bridge the gender gap. What's needed there is we need to include more people in our service. We have to concentrate as an institution on clients, product innovation, also on financial capacity, financial education to our clients, implement a strong consumer protection while we are doing that, because we are dealing with the most sensitive segment of the markets, the women businesses, women-led businesses. In general, consumer protection is a regulatory requirement to all services that any institution, a financial institution, is providing. Better financial infrastructure, this is the readiness of the institution to target or to serve, and this is one of, I recall one of that thing which is related to financial institution infrastructure. If we are serving women-led businesses, we should have women staff and female staff who serve that women due to social norms or gender norms that are in our communities. We know all that if we are reaching out to visit women-led MSME in local community, in poor community, as a man or a female, or as a man, as a female, or as a male, it would make a difference. So infrastructure is more, not only in presence or all the service provider, also in policies and procedures at that non-bank financial institution. Regulatory framework and the public-private commitment. If we could partner as an institution with other institutions to make it happen, that would make our life much more easier actually to collaborate. The MFI responsibility and financial institution responsibility, we said and we mentioned the importance of data. And gender analysis, this is one of each institution think about expanding their services to the women-led businesses to improve the target market access to their activities and their services. They have to conduct a gender analysis to better understand the needs, the norms in their communities, and then use that data to develop products. Try to do activity and implement activity, financial education about gender diversification, providing financial education and training, which is the financial literacy, engaging in women through association and networks in their community, and invest in digital finance. Those are our responsibility as a financial institution in order to enhance, to improve, to decrease the gender gap in our services. We have to better understand the markets, know their needs. We have to create and innovate a new business model and products to better serve, to promote gender equality, provide financial education training and financial literacy programs, work hand in hand with associations and the other different stakeholders through partnerships and collaboration, and invest in digital finance. That would enhance the accessibility to their services and activities. What do you think here as a practitioner? Is there anything missing here that we should consider while we are targeting women-led MSMEs or businesses?
I would like to ask you a question.
Yes, please.
you know that these days how much ESG investing is being really important, especially these days with all the risks coming from the environment and the other non-financial factors. I would like to ask you, do you think that if there is a certain activity to promote gender equality as a main component of the ESG, the S, the social, do you think that this would help in enhancing or in increasing, or let's say to work on to make less the gender gap? Do you think this would help?
Yeah, sure. I think this is any investment in any barriers or anything that would prevent in any norms, in any barriers that's preventing women-led businesses from accessing or improving their welfare is needed in different, with disregard what would be the approach or individual institution or collaboration, or it's it's partnerships with different institutions. I think, yeah, from my point of view, I don't know if anyone could add to the question of Hasna. Hello? I don't know if I answered the question. Okay, you got the answer?
Yes, sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hasna, for your question. The way forward, actually, this is, again, the readiness of the institution, minimum institutional competencies and baselines that we want to make sure that we are ready in-house as a financial institution. Awareness and commitment to gender integrity strategy, endorsement of strategy. And this is very important, actually, to have a clear strategy at an institutional level. In hiring, practices in hiring at an institutional level, as we said, there are some countries who endorsed, or central banks, or regulators, or policymakers has defined criteria in order to make sure of considering gender while hiring to a higher senior levels in the institution. Make sure of the cultural norms, social norms, economics, and of barriers, better understanding the barriers that would help the institution to facilitate. I remember that one of the challenges that one institution could face is when technology is not available is transportation for backward and forward to their branch. The availability of transportation, because some villages, they don't have transportation on a regular basis. They have it once a day. So transportation was really a barrier of accessing to financial service. What would be the responsibility of the institution to solve it out, either to invest in buses or to work to collaborate with government and policymaker regulators in order to remove that barrier as a transportation, let's say, to that village, by make more availability of means of transportation to that area, let's say. So there is so many activities that institutions should not think individually how to solve it. They could collaborate and to advocate, let's say, with other parties, partnerships, in order to make it happen. And even defining targets. You see one of the examples of the Central Bank of Bahrain and microfinance institution, non-bank institution, they define that we need by the coming 3-4 years, we need our portfolio 50% male, female, women-led businesses, MSMEs businesses. And definition of women businesses is very important. I think Shireen has mentioned that Egypt and some other countries, Palestine even, they define what we mean when we said women-led businesses. Is it the percent, the highest, the majority, the sole ownership, or it is a business that it is managed by a female or a woman in general? So that is very important to make sure of. Any question to hear? Hello? Any question, any addition? Any comment? Before to move the case study, imagine if you allow me for the case study, I would need maybe to benefit from having Shireen and Hasna with us to exchange with us their experience as a regulator. Maybe if you can, Hasna, Shireen, just exchange with us the practices that recently has been done. What was the impact on gender in your country?
Sure. Sure.
Mazen, maybe this is the way much better actually to benefit from the audience.
Yes, yes, sure. Why not?
Yeah, okay. So Shireen, if we could start for Shireen until Hasna, maybe should you prepare, or who want to start with? Who would like to start? Hasna or Shireen?
Okay, sure. No
what
problem.
is
Okay.
what is the case study in particular?
The case
What are
study, I prepared the case study about Palestine, but as long as you are with us, even
Yes.
I thought that maybe it's much better even for the audience to hear from you. What was the your role as a regulator in general, informally, and what was the impact from your point of view, your experience
Hmm.
on bridging the gap in gender?
Hmm. Unfortunately, Banque Liban has been working on this, but we have been facing a crisis in Lebanon, an economic, financial crisis, which is really unprecedented. So there were much more urgent priorities. This is why we have kept those studies on hold, or these initiatives on hold, just waiting for the way for us to limit the impact of this crisis, which started mainly in 2019 with the COVID crisis all around the world, and with, unfortunately, the situation in Lebanon. This is why we cannot really say that we have done much in this field in the last years, unfortunately. But I hope the situation will be better soon, and I hope this will be the top priorities in the future.
Thank you, Hasna. But I think that central bank, you mentioned in the beginning that central bank or regulators or government in general, they have developed policymakers, they developed the registry of movable assets. It was one step forward, actually, which is due to the importance of the barrier of access to finance we mentioned through statistics. That it was the most common challenge. So
Yes.
at least such policies endorsed by government, it would enhance the accessibility, access more to financial services.
Yes, of course.
Is there any other reforms has been done? There's no results. I know that the situation in Lebanon now or recently, but the measures and the policies maybe that was thought of or already started to be on the shelf now. But again, it was in the plan. What else other than the registry of reforms? Credit Bureau, I think there is an experience, a good experience with the Bureau again.
Mainly, this is the main reform which has been worked, which is waiting for a law to be enacted.
Okay, but thank you, Hasna. Maybe we'll move to Shireen. Thank you, Hasna. Shireen.
Yes, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share Egypt experience. Of course, I'm not well prepared for the presentation, but I will share very briefly the achievement done by Central Bank of Egypt up till now. And I'll be so happy if you want me to share later in other sessions a presentation, a full-fledged presentation. But for now, I can share very few insights from the achievements of the Central Bank of Egypt. As I have mentioned earlier, that the Central Bank of Egypt has put financial inclusion in general as one of the main priorities. And also this has been mentioned at the CBE new law. number 194 for year 2020. Also, CBE put MSMEs also as general, including the female aspect, as a top priority. And as you have known, have issued a series of initiatives to encourage access to finance to MSMEs sector through subsidized interest rates, and that is now under the Ministry of Finance. Also, we have issued a unified definition for the MSME sector. We required the banks to allocate 20% of their total credit portfolio to finance the MSMEs, and this percentage was later increased to 25% in February 2021. And also we extended this percentage till December 2023. Also, regarding the CGC, we have now a credit guarantee company specialized for guarantee the portfolios of the MSMEs. And CBE is now the regulator body for this kind of credit guarantee companies. Also, we have the iScore, which is the credit bureau under the supervision of the Central Bank of Egypt. And I'm very glad to tell you that we have issued an alternative scoring regulations to allow the banks to lend MSMEs, not MSMEs, micro and small enterprises with a certain threshold without having financial statements and depending on the alternative scoring methodology. And of course, the iScore, our iScore arm, the iScore company is helping us in having this format or system for alternative scoring. And also regarding specifically the women aspects, as I have mentioned earlier, CBE issued a women-owned business definition for the women-owned enterprises for statistical purposes. The definition depends on two aspects. According to the ownership, where at least 51% of the ownership stake held by women or collectively by women, 51% of the shares, or according to the ownership and the management, where at least 20% of the ownership is held by one woman or women collectively, and one woman is the CEO, the president, or the vice president.
So the definition of what is meant by women-led businesses.
Yes, this is the definition. Also, the CBE have issued a simplified Know Your Customer regulations, depending in integration, of course, with the AML CFT unit. It was this regulation was issued in accordance with the international practice of applying the risk-based approaches, and it aimed to include more people, especially the women, because we have a lot of women in Egypt that they don't have like a profession or a job. So sometimes the banks were reluctant or refused to deal with them. So we issued the simplified Know Your Customer regulations to promote banks to deal with different categories of the society, including the women that don't have a job or a profession. Also, we have issued some amendments on this financial inclusion simplified Know Your Customer regulations to facilitate the regulations and to include more people in the financial sector, where CBE permitted the banks to apply the simplified Know Your Customer regulations on all banks' accounts, not depending on technological solutions, with certain, of course, with certain limits and for low, of course, risk customers. And also we introduced more facilitation to certain groups of clients, like the craftsmen in Egypt and others who lack having certain documents at the commercial register or things like that, or the license for the business, by allowing the bank to open these accounts by the national ID. But of course, we are monitoring the risk by having good compliance monitoring at the bank to monitor the risks of such accounts. Also, Central Bank of Egypt is working on building the capacity of different entities and institutions who have a huge outreach of women. Like I have mentioned, the NCW, or the National Council of Women. CBE is working on financial literacy. We are working on a task called training of the trainers. Because we have a project called VSLA, village saving loan associations in Egypt. It's like converting the informal sector, CBE in integration with the National Council of Women and other non-governmental organizations have found that many rural areas that the women are saving there in informal sector, like in a box, and they called it the VSLA project. So CBE worked on a project to convert this informal sector into formal sector through the mobile wallets, through the mobile.
Utilizing technology also. This is another point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, through the technology, and of course, all this big sector working in the informal sector of the women working in the informal sector or saving in the informal sector will be converted to the formal sector. And in the future, the banks will have records of all these women, and so they can avail access to finance for them on the long run, or even in the short run when after they have good records of them. So the project is working on availing saving projects, saving solutions through the mobile wallet, and in the near future, the banks will avail access to finance or availing credit to the women to have a micro finance business or a micro business. Also, we have entrepreneur initiatives in Egypt to promote the entrepreneurship, or, of course, among them, the women entrepreneurship. It was an initiative in integration between the Central Bank of Egypt and the Egyptian banking sector, along with various partners from the governmental and the private sector. The initiative established in 2019, and its aim is to provide non-financial services to the entrepreneurship and providing hubs for development for this entrepreneurship. And till now, the initiative supported 240 startups, and I think the numbers are exceeding now. Also, the initiative have another aspect of calling business development hubs. It's like a hubs that is located inside the bank branches where bank staff offering only non-banking financial institute, non-banking services to the entrepreneurs, like how to make a feasibility study, how to make a business plan. It's like making the entrepreneurship ready to deal with the bank. But these stuff are only providing non-banking financial help or support to the entrepreneurship to make them ready to go to the MSME employee, bank employee, to be ready to have access to finance or other banking services. I have a lot of initiatives also, but I am taking a long time, so I will be.
Actually, Shireen, thank you very much for sharing this information, because this is what the core that we were sharing from the morning. Actually, what was the responsibility? And you mentioned financial literacy, business incubator, collaboration, policy reforms, inductions, responsibility of financial institutions. So I think the holistic approach has been implemented, and the result was in Egypt, or still now, it's the percentage of female or women-led businesses, entrepreneurs. And I know the challenge in Egypt regarding the informal sector is the majority of the business of the economy. Comparatively speaking, only the registered businesses represent maybe a small portion of the businesses, the formal businesses. But again, that would lead to increasing the participation to reach around 60 or 65% of the total borrowing that's granted from non-bank financial institution and financial institution in Egypt. Central bank has played, as you mentioned, a role in incentivizing institutions how to, let's say, to encourage banks and non-banks to address that challenge of gender, mainstreaming gender in general. Thank you, Shireen. Any question for Shireen from the audience, if you would like to better or to more in-depth questions? No questions? Mazen, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ziad, and thank you everyone for staying with us all this time. It was a fruitful session indeed, and based on that, we will be sending you a link for the recording of today's session, as well as a link for downloading the presentation from Ziad. Also, we will be sending you a link for evaluation. We like to hear from you, your thoughts about the session and how we can improve. Because next Tuesday we will have at the same time the final workshop about the investment readiness for NBFIs and how to position them for accessing concessional funding, which is an important topic as well. So we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday, and I will be sending a reminder later this week in this regard. So either me or my colleague Slim will send you the evaluation link and the recordings and the link for the presentation. Thank you very much for your participation, and we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.